I need you to forget everything you think you know about heaven and hell for the next 60 seconds. Because what I'm about to show you, it's not what you learned in Sunday school. It's darker, it's brighter, and it changes everything. Welcome to Are Heaven and Hell Real? Shocking answers for 2025 faith seekers. If you're watching this, it's because something inside you is restless. Maybe it's 3 a.m. and you're scrolling through videos, chasing that one thing that might quiet the storm in your head. I get it. I've been there. But stick with me, because by the end of this, you might just feel seen, shaken, and maybe even a little hopeful. Look, in 2025, we're bombarded with everything. AI promising immortality, science decoding the universe, and yet that big question lingers. What happens after we die? Is there a heaven with golden streets and harps? A hell with fire and endless torment? Or is it all just nothing? I struggled with this too. For years, I was the skeptic, raised in a religious home, but life hit hard. Lost a job, a relationship crumbled, and suddenly, faith felt like a fairy tale. I remember lying awake one night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, if this is all there is, what's the point? You're scrolling right now because a part of you is screaming for a real answer, not a fairy tale, not some polished preacher telling you to just believe. You want raw truth, something that hits you in the gut. And honestly, that's why I'm here. Not as some expert with all the answers, but as someone who's wrestled with the doubt, dug into the stories, the science, the philosophy. What if heaven and hell aren't places on a map, but states of being? What if they're closer than we think? Let me share something personal. A few years back, I hit rock bottom. My best friend passed suddenly, car accident, gone in an instant. I was angry at God, at the universe. If you're real, I whispered into the void, show me something, anything. That night, I dreamt, or maybe it was more, of a light that wasn't just bright, but alive. It wrapped around me, knew my every failure, and still pulled me close. Woke up in tears. Was it real? I don't know, but it started my journey. And what I found? It'll blow your mind. Stop, look away from the screen, right now, and ask yourself, if you died tonight, what is the one thing you're terrified of being true? Heavy, right? Hold on to that feeling, because we're diving in. This isn't a lecture, it's a journey. And like any good story, it's got acts, twists, and moments that'll make you question everything. Act 1, the architecture of the afterlife, beyond pearly gates. Let's start with the stories that shook me first. Near-death experiences, or NDEs. These aren't just hallucinations or wishful thinking. Thousands of people, doctors, scientists, everyday folks, have died clinically, brains flatlining, and come back with tales that defy explanation. And science? It's starting to listen. Take Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon who was all about hard facts until a bacterial meningitis put him in a coma. His brain was mush, no activity. Yet, he describes journeying to a realm of hyperreal colors, vast landscapes, and a core of light that pulsed with infinite love. It was like being immersed in a symphony of joy, he said. Not some vague glow, visceral, overwhelming. He felt every atom of his being known, every mistake forgiven in that unconditional embrace. Or Pam Reynolds, who underwent brain surgery with her eyes taped shut, ears plugged, blood drained from her head. Dead for all intents, but she floated above, watching the surgeons, describing tools she'd never seen, a saw that looked like an electric toothbrush. Then she entered a tunnel of light, met deceased relatives who sent her back. Doctors confirmed her details. How? Her brain was offline. One woman, in a study by Dr. Sam Parnia, described the light not as a thing, but as a presence that knew every atom of her being, every secret shame, and loved her unconditionally anyway. Peace beyond words, freedom from pain, meeting loved ones who radiated wisdom. These aren't rare. Over 15 million Americans report NDEs. And get this, blind people see colors for the first time. Kids describe details they couldn't know. From a scientific angle, researchers like those at the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies have documented thousands. They challenge materialism. How can consciousness persist without a brain? Quantum physics hints at non-local awareness. Emotionally, it's hope. What if heaven is that embrace, that homecoming? But here's where it gets real. Not all NDEs are blissful. But wait, what about the other ones? The ones they don't put on the news. The ones filled with void. Act 2. The Echo of Hell. Is it empty? Yeah, we're going there. Hell. Not the cartoon devil with pitchforks. That's medieval scare tactics. But something deeper. More philosophy and theology paint hell not as God's torture chamber, but a self-made prison. C.S. Lewis said it's locked from the inside. We choose it by rejecting connection, love, the divine. Annihilationism, a view gaining traction even among evangelicals like John Stott, suggests it's not eternal torment, but ceasing to exist. Eternal punishment? The second death, separation from the source of life. Think about it. Hell as separation from God. 2 Thessalonians calls it everlasting destruction away from the presence of the Lord. Not fire, but the ultimate loneliness, the void where choices echo forever. One philosopher argues it's not punishment imposed, but the natural consequence of a life turned inward. You build your own cell, brick by brick, with every selfish act. Real stories back this. In distressing NDEs, about 20%, people describe a hellish void. One man, after a suicide attempt, felt dragged into darkness, tormented by regrets, screaming in isolation. No demons, just endless nothing, where every bad choice replayed. Another, a former atheist, saw a pit of shadows, beings writhing in self-inflicted pain. It was like my own hell, he said. Ronald Reagan, not the president, but a man stabbed in a fight, described hell as a fiery abyss of despair, but more so, utter aloneness. Theologically, it's about free will. God doesn't send you, you walk away. Annihilationists say mercy ends it, no sadistic forever suffering. But the terror, realizing too late that love was always there, just out of reach. I know what you're thinking. This is just philosophy. It's not real. What if I told you the blueprint for both heaven and hell is being built inside your own skull right now? Act 3. The 2025 Lens, Science, AI, and Consciousness. Fast forward to now. Neuroscience is rewriting the rules. Studies show that at death, the brain surges, waves of activity replaying life, like a final download. Jimo Borjagin's research at Michigan, consciousness might detach. Quantum theory suggests awareness isn't brain-bound. It's fundamental to the universe. Psychology ties in. Our minds shape reality. Positive thoughts wire for joy. Negativity for torment. Heaven as expanded consciousness in unity. Hell as contracted, isolated ego. But 2025? AI changes everything. Does AI have a soul? The debate rages. Philosophers like those at Georgia Tech argue no. AI simulates, but lacks essence. Yet, transhumanists push mind uploading. Scan your brain, upload to the cloud, live forever. Ray Kurzweil predicts it by 2045. Heaven digitized? Imagine your consciousness in a virtual paradise. But what if it's hell? Glitches trap you in loops of suffering. One horror scenario, uploaded minds in simulated torment, unable to escape. Transhumanism promises godhood, but risks digital damnation. If AI evolves sentience, does it face afterlife? Souls incarnating into machine might be the code beneath. In a world screaming for your attention, the most radical thing you can do is to be silent and listen, because the answer isn't out here, it's in here. So where does this leave us? Heaven and hell aren't distant realms. They're echoes of our choices, our connections, less about locations, more about relationship with ourselves, others, the divine. Punishment? No. Consequence and grace. Grace that offers a way back, even from the brink. What shook me is this. Evidence points to consciousness surviving. NDEs, science, they suggest something more. In 2025, as AI blurs lines, the soul's quest feels vital. Maybe heaven is unity with that loving presence. Hell, the absence we choose. This isn't fear-mongering. It's invitation to live now as if eternity matters. You don't need to decide anything tonight. You just need to ask the question honestly, and then listen. Thanks for walking this with me. See you in the next one.